UFC Freedom 250 is today. I'm going to go through the entire card, give you guys the notes and style of each fighter, as well as my best bets and predictions for every single fight on the card. If you guys want the full betting recap, go ahead and fast forward to this part of the video. Let's get into it. The first fight on the card, Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. Diego Lopez, he loses his UFC debut to Movsar Evloev, then wins 5 in a row, gets a title shot against Volk, loses that, bounces back with a KO win over Gene Silva at UFC Noche, then gets another title shot against Volk earlier this year, loses that fight as well. Now he's looking to bounce back again. His style, he's a clean and powerful boxer that really excels in the pocket. I think that's where he does his best work. He has a good jiu-jitsu base as well. Incredible chin on Diego Lopez. Watch the Gene Silva fight. Some of these shots he's eating, it's just nuts. His opponent, Steve Garcia, he got a win on the Dana White Contender Series, missed weight, so he had to go back to LFA, win another fight, then they signed him. In 2020, he's currently riding a 6-fight win streak. 5 of those wins are knockouts, and I believe 4 of those 5 knockouts are in the first round. Holding a UFC record of 8-2 now. His style, he's nicknamed the Meme Machine for a reason. This guy hits really, really hard. He has faced a relatively weak strength of schedule so far. This is going to be by far the best opponent that Steve Garcia has faced. This is a huge step up for him. I think his most recent opponent was David Onama, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, this is going to be a big step up for Steve Garcia. But he is extremely powerful, and regardless of any fight he's in, he's always going to have a puncher's chance. My prediction for the fight, though, I do think Diego Lopez is going to win via round 2 KO. I guess the reason for this is I trust the chin of Diego Lopez more. I do think this is going to be a stand-up fight. I do think a lot of it's going to be fought in the pocket. And just what I've been, told through the history of both of these two guys is that I'm going to trust the chin of Diego Lopez more, and I'm going to trust him in the pocket more. I think he's going to be cleaner. And if you look at the loss from Steve Garcia, I mean, I'm not saying his chin is bad, but at the same time, we haven't seen Steve Garcia really get hit a whole lot because he's putting away these fights so soon. Is there we don't know if there's a durability question mark. We've seen Diego Lopez go 25 minutes against Volk twice. It's tricky. I think Lopez moneyline at minus 155 is great value, though. I would have expected him to be a lot heavier of a favorite. And the fight not to go the distance at minus 240, I feel like that's kind of a given, but minus 240 is still pretty good value. Absolute banger to kick off the card. Once again, this could headline a fight night. And it's the opening fight on the card. The next fight. Probably shouldn't have hyped up the card a little bit. Bo Nickel, Kyle Dawkins. Super glad this is on the card. This is definitely a need. Notes on Bo Nickel. He's got this huge NCAA wrestling background. He's a 3-time Division I NCAA champion. Wins on the Dana White Contender Series twice, gets a contract, starts off his UFC career 4-0, and then loses all hype. Every single bit of it comes to a screeching halt when he fought Reinier de Ritter. Got kneed in the oblique, crumpled to the ground. Did have a good bounce back win, though, against Rodolfo Vieira at UFC 322. The style of Bo Nickel, he's obviously a very high-level wrestler. Does have decent submission ability as well. It's not just control from Bo Nickel, but the biggest weakness that we've seen so far is his ability to wear damage. And I don't know, I struggle with this because I don't know if it was one of those shots to the liver that just crumple you completely and your body shuts down and that's what happened, or if he just kind of quit. It's tough to say. But the stand-up is growing still with Bo Nickel. We saw a great improvement. He had a nasty head kick KO. I mean, if you would have told me that there was a Bo Nickel fight and somebody lost via nasty head kick KO, I would have thought Bo Nickel was getting sent to the shadow realm. But he was on the positive end of that. So he's definitely growing and evolving as a fighter and still has that obvious wrestling pedigree. His opponent, Kyle Dawkins, he originally signed to the UFC in 2020, but then he went 2-4 and got cut from the UFC. Went to the regional scene, won some more fights. Now he's riding a 2-fight win streak, but both of his most recent wins come within a 1-minute finish. He had a stunning sub against GM3, and then he knocked out Michelle Pera in like 30 seconds. So it's tough. He's on this like kind of rise now. He's coming back after looking like he was just a below average fighter at first. The style of Kyle Dawkins, it's kind of a wild card. I don't really know because it's like we're dealing with two different fighters. There's the Kyle Dawkins that was originally in the UFC and the Kyle Dawkins we've seen over the last two fights. The only tricky thing is we've only seen 2 minutes of the new Kyle Dawkins because he's finishing these fights so quick. So on one end, I think he's going to be this dangerous, powerful guy that can put people away. But we haven't seen a whole lot of him. And, the two opponents that he has faced are, GM3 is not that great. So regardless, he's a complete fighter, has finishing ability clearly, but we'll really see. We'll really see if he's about that today. He's just a wild card to me. My prediction for the fight, I do think Bo Nickel will win via unanimous decision. I do think Bo Nickel will put on a wrestling clinic. I do think people will call it boring after the fight, and I do think people will feel correct for questioning why this fight was on the card. I could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe there will be some sort of urgency because it's at the White House and because it's such a big event and because the bonuses are raised and all these things like that. Maybe, but maybe not. I feel like I felt that way before, and it just doesn't really happen. So I do think the fight will go the distance at plus 150. However, Kyle Dawkins is great value. Because he's such a wild card, I'm not saying throw your life savings on Kyle Dawkins, but I do think that he's worth setting aside some small portion of money for. A Dawkins KO at plus 1,300 is nuts. Are we not watching the last two fights of Kyle Dawkins? Did we not watch the only Bo Nickel loss? It's just that doesn't make sense at plus 1,300. I think it's great value. If he's able to land that shot, I do think Bo Nickel will probably shoot relatively immediately, land the takedown, and probably will end up staying there for a while. But if Bo Nickel, wants to stand and strike like he did against Rodolfo Vieira, who knows? It could get interesting, but I do think Bo Nickel will win via unanimous decision. We move on. The next fight on the card, Mauricio Rufy versus Michael Chandler. Kind of an odd one, matchmaking-wise. Doesn't make a ton of sense, but I'm cool with it. Mauricio Rufy used to train out of Fighting Nerds, left Fighting Nerds, sadly. Now he's rocking with Volk, but not City Kickboxing. It's like just Volk. I don't know what he's doing. It's kind of a weird deal, but regardless, he's learning and looked great in his last fight, so why change it? Comes into the UFC after a win on Dana White Contender Series, goes 3-0, has the KO of the year against Bobby Green, spinning back wheel head kick, loses to BSD in pretty dominant fashion. A lot of question marks about his anti-grappling and whether or not he would just be a fun fighter other than like an actual contending good fighter. Bounced back with a win over Rafael Fiziev. Knocked him out in 9 minutes, which I think is kind of getting overlooked because Justin Gaethje had 30 minutes to do that to Rafael Fiziev and couldn't. But his style, he's a very patient, technical, lengthy striker with true one-punch KO ability. Anti-grappling, like I said, looked very bad against Benoit Saint-Denis. We'll see here because, if you're getting taken down and controlled by Michael Chandler, we got a real problem. So while the anti-grappling did look bad against BSD, I think Fiziev shot for a couple takedowns and didn't get him, but Fiziev's not really a grappler. So Mauricio Rufy is definitely trying to keep the fight standing and looks to pick his shots well. Will stay patient, is fine losing, dropping around. He's going to look for that shot. And so far, he's been able to find it. His opponent, Michael Chandler. He was a big fighter in Bellator before coming to the UFC, and now he's 2-5 in the UFC. He's fought only big names, just can't really beat any of them. Got beaten up by Charles twice, lost to Dustin, I think Justin as well. His two wins are Dan Hooker and I can't quite remember. Oh, Tony Ferguson. Yes, so Michael Chandler style. He's undersized for the division, but I think it bodes well for him because he does have that grappling style, I guess, kind of. He was a wrestler at Missouri. He has a wrestling background. I think he's a better wrestler than anything, but he's super compact and explosive, so that helps with his power. He looked very bad lately, though. The fight against Patty was a beatdown. Loses to Oliveira in really dominant fashion. He had that like one moment late in the fifth. Just not sure where his true strengths lie anymore. I don't want to be disrespectful and be like, the what does this guy even do here meme. But it is kind of like, what does Michael Chandler do? I don't know. I really don't. With that being said, my prediction for the fight, I do think Mauricio Rufy will win via round 3 KO. I could be being overly um, cautious here by picking it to go as deep as round 3, but like I said, Mauricio Rufy is very technical. He's patient. He will wait for that shot, and he's fine waiting until round 3 until it finally connects. The big story in this one is that Mauricio Rufy is huge for lightweight, and Michael Chandler is undersized. So this is gonna be it's gonna look weird. Mauricio Rufy's really got pretty much everything he needs to win this. The length, Michael Chandler's not looking great. However, with that being said, this is not an unwinnable fight for Michael Chandler. As I don't want to sound delusional, but it really isn't completely unwinnable for Michael Chandler. He can force takedowns, do things. I mean, I don't know. Okay, maybe I am just making stuff up, but maybe I'm not. I hope Michael Chandler retires after this, regardless. Hopefully, he doesn't pull out an accidental win and then end up staying in the UFC. But I do think Mauricio Rufy will get this done by round 3 TKO. Rufy minus 700 makes plenty of sense. That's about, those should be the odds. I wouldn't advise anyone to even throw a high value straight on Michael Chandler. It's just too low of a chance. Plus 105 on the fight to go over 1.5 rounds. That is a great bet. That is probably my favorite bet, maybe on the entire card for this fight to go over 1.5 rounds, just because Mauricio Rufy is so patient. Rufy KO over 1.5 rounds. It's I think a mini same game parlay at plus 280. That is a great bet as well. I would strongly advise you place either of those two that I just placed. The next fight on the card, Josh Hokett versus Derek Lewis. Josh Hokett, oh boy. Notes on him. He was a former D1 football player. He wrestled, or D1 football player and wrestler at Fresno State. Gets a win and a contract on the Dana White Contender Series. Kind of just bursts onto the scene, though, in heavyweight. Fights Denzel Freeman, I believe, at UFC 324 at the beginning of the year. Wins via middle finger. Had a really electric fight. And then he gets a huge step up into the top, I think it's top 5, against Curtis Blades. Beats him in one of the best heavyweight fights, potential fight of the year candidate. Known for his shtick, but so far he's backing it up. He's walking the walk and talking the talk. Josh Hokett, his style, he's very chaotic, forward style, but he is very hittable, struggles with head movement as well. He has legit wrestling skill and uses it in a very crafty way. It's not it's not like a traditional, how a typical college NCAA wrestler would use wrestling in MMA. He uses it in a very, very different. It's kind of tough to explain, but he's a very crafty wrestler and uses it very well. He is undersized for the division. He could easily fight at light heavyweight. I think he might even be able to fight at middleweight. If he really just slimmed down, cut down, and cut weight, I think he could easily fight at 205. So he is not a true heavyweight. His opponent, Derek Lewis. He's a former title contender. It's always been a consistent top heavyweight, really. Looked really bad in his last fight against Waldo Cortez Acosta, where he just couldn't do anything, looked very slow, slipped on a banana peel, and then lost. Has the most KOs in UFC history, though. His style, he's a definition of a puncher's chance. He could lose for 14 minutes and 50 seconds of a 15-minute fight and then still find a way to win just because he has so much power. Lacks speed, like I said earlier. Waldo Cortez Acosta just kind of danced around and made him look silly. Not the quickest mover. Anti-grappling is not great either. Not really doing him a bunch of justice in this style. Derek Lewis is the power puncher, though. Most KOs in UFC history. That is probably the most important thing to take away from this. I'm just now realizing how this might sound. My prediction for the fight, I think Derek Lewis is going to knock Josh Hokett out in round 1. Do I want Derek Lewis to win? Yes. Is that factoring into my decision here to pick him to win? I think so. I think probably. However, hear me out. Josh Hokett just had a war. He just went to war a few months ago. Curtis Blades just did an interview and said he's feeling about 75%. I'm not saying that Josh Hokett is feeling 75%, but It did just happen. Like, that's a big fight to make a quick turnaround from. Josh Hogan got hit a lot in that Curtis Blades fight. I don't think you can afford to get hit like that in a Derek Lewis fight. If Josh Hogan tries to implement wrestling, Derek Lewis is a lot heavier than him. That makes a big difference. Like, this is a really obscure example that not a lot of people are probably going to understand. But if you watch the Vitor Petrino versus Steven Asplund fight, Vitor Petrino is a great grappler, but Steven Asplund is 265 pounds. Vitor Petrino is not. He's a former light heavyweight. Even though Vitor Petrino was an excellent grappler, he really wasn't able to get anything going on the ground because that weight difference, and especially in your lower half, if you're just able to drop your weight at all, it gets so hard to land takedowns and, create grappling exchanges, especially if the other person isn't willing to exchange them. So I think it's going to be like, he didn't even really have grappling success against Curtis Blades. I think if he tries to grapple, it will fail. And I think if he tries to stay in an exchange, Curtis Blades, okay, I'm kind of getting a little crazy here, but Curtis Blades, his chin is not great. Curtis Blades' chin is notoriously bad, and Josh Hogan still couldn't knock him out, even though he landed really cleanly multiple times. I think if he has any sort of a similar fight against Derek Lewis, he's getting put to sleep. Derek Lewis is not somebody that you can give one, take one. You have to be very clean. Now, is there a world where Josh Hogan is in and out, very clean, lands big shots, maybe lands a takedown? Yes, that can happen. But Josh Hogan is not Waldo Cortez Acosta type. Josh Hogan is very forward. He's not in and out. And I think that's going to bode very well for Derek Lewis. I think he's going to find the knockout. And I think his money line at plus 350 is great value. You can never count out Derek Lewis. He made me look stupid last time I picked him. We'll see. If he loses this, he should probably call it quits, and it would be a good place to retire. Even if he wins, he should probably retire as well, too. But yeah, the fight to go under 1.5 rounds, that is probably the better bet here at minus 190. But this fight should be very good. I will be very excited to see how this one goes. The next fight on the card, the basically co-main event, because we really got two main events here. Sean O'Malley and Ayman Zahabi. Sean O'Malley signed to the UFC in 2017 after a win on the Dana White Contender Series, instantly became a star, got suspended for a very odd PED situation, returned 3 years later, beats Aljo and Piotr Jan to become bantamweight champion of the world, lost to Merab twice, loses his belt at Noche, then tries to get it back, loses again, and then he bounced back against Song Yadong in his most recent fight. Now looking to work his way back up and hopefully get back to title contention whenever that belt gets moving. His style, he's a lightning quick striker with elite counter striking. He's only had one finish since 2022, though. He can be overly patient, but this fight being 3 rounds isn't the best for Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley is definitely a 5-round fighter. He will find his groove probably 7 or 8 minutes into the fight, and then he really starts to pick it up and really starts cooking. So this fight being 3 rounds isn't the best for him. Sean O'Malley is kind of he does kind of not ease his way into the fight, but he finds his groove later into fights. His opponent, Ayman Zahabi, starts off his UFC career 0-2 and then rolls to 7 straight wins. Both of his wins are very controversial. Everybody thought he robbed Jose Aldo. And then he had a split decision against Chito Vera as well in his most recent fight that wasn't great. Looks like Drake and Ariel Helwani, so that's funny. I think that's kind of really what more people know him for, is looking like Ariel Helwani. But his style, he's just a slightly above average fighter in my eyes. He's got decent striking, well-rounded aspects to his game. He's coached up by GSP, my GOAT. So he's obviously a decent IQ fighter, and there's not really a bunch of weaknesses to his game. His footwork and speed aren't great. He just has plenty of dog in him, though. He is an entertaining fighter, nonetheless, but he is older. I think he's 38, which is weird because, I don't know. He's not somebody that you'd think of as being older, but he is. His style is, like I said, a very normal, slightly above average fighter. Everywhere the fight goes, well-rounded guy, but like him as a person and like who he is to the UFC is kind of a tough thing to describe. My prediction for the fight, I do think Sean O'Malley will win via round 2 KO. I was going to go round 1 KO, and then I remembered Sean's kind of going to groove his way into it. This should be a layup for Sean O'Malley. I won't lie. I don't want to disrespect Diamond Zahabi. It's just I don't think he's nearly top 5 level. I think there's a lot of fighters that would beat him pretty easily, and Sean O'Malley is one of them. Not really a ton of value here on the card because Song Yadong is good. It's not like O'Malley should have went out there and knocked out Song Yadong. However, it wasn't his best performance, I don't think. He hasn't had a finish in a while. I think he's going to try and get that finish. Hopefully he does, because that'd be entertaining. But it's tough to like bet on KO or decision because they're both so likely, and the double chance at Sean O'Malley KO decision is so close to minus 450. It's like there's not even really a point. So the money line really there is the only thing worth betting on. But it should be a good fight. I do think Sean O'Malley will bounce back, and hopefully he works his way back into title contention because he is a big star for the UFC and a big name. The co-main event, Alex Pereira versus Ciryl Gane. Alex Pereira, he was a huge star in Glory Kickboxing, transitions over to the UFC in 2021, speed runs the entire UFC, knocks out Izzy, becomes a middleweight champ that goes up to light heavyweight, beats Yuri Prohashka twice, runs through the entire division at light heavyweight, loses to Ankalaev, comes back, beats Ankalaev in his most recent fight, says, I'm done here. Now he's going up to heavyweight to try and become the first ever triple champ. Shama, his style, he's an elite technical kickboxer with some of the best pound-for-pound power in the entire sport. He's never really faced a high-level grappler, but his takedown defense has always looked really impressive. Like I said, he hasn't faced an elite grappler or really a high-level grappler at that. But anytime somebody does try and take him down, they can't. Shama, his opponent, Ciryl Gane, he played basketball growing up in France, switched to MMA, signed with the UFC in 2019. And ever since he's been in the UFC, he's been one of those guys where it's like the top of heavyweight and then everything else. He's always been one of those top guys. He has an infinite title shot glitch. I believe he lost to Derek Lewis, or he beat Derek Lewis to become interim, then loses to Francis Ngannou, beats Tuivasa in a competitive fight, then fights John Jones where he gets submitted immediately. Then he robs Volkov in broad daylight and then gets another title shot. Fingered Tom Aspinall's eyes. Now he's getting another title shot. So, kind of unique path for Ciryl Gane. But his style, he's a very rare athlete. His speed, movement as a heavyweight is not really a power puncher. He does have knockouts. Obviously, it's heavyweight, and he's strong. I mean, look at him. But he's not like this devastating KO guy. It's more volume than anything. Wants to keep the fight standing and exchange on the feet where he can use his speed. He's also a dirty fucking cheat. This guy is dirty. Eye pokes constantly, back of the head shots, groin shots. They're riddled throughout his entire career. And sure, if something's happened a couple times, like, oh, well, it happens every single fight. The Tuivasa fight, he smashed the back of his head, and it directly led to him getting that win. So, would be surprised if he tries to pull some bullshit tonight. My prediction for the fight, I do think Poatan will win via round 3 KO. This is a tough one. Poatan's huge. He looks gigantic. And I think he's still one of the strongest pound-for-pound hitters. This is going to be really, really close. So Ciryl Gane is a true heavyweight. Like, he could sit and try and sweat out as much water as possibly can, cut weight, and he'd still be like 230. Poatan is not the same. He used to fight at 185, but obviously he's looking the part. He's really committed to this move to heavyweight. It's going to be tricky. Ciryl Gane, like, people think that he's going to implement grappling and it's going to work. I don't think that's going to happen. Poatan is, his legs look stronger. Ciryl Gane's not a great grappler. I don't see that. That is one thing I don't understand the the thought in the MMA community that Ciryl Gane's going to grapple. I don't get that. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this is just going to be a stand-up fight. I think that's where Alex Pereira is going to shine. I think he's going to outpoint Ciryl Gane and then find the big shot in round 3. But this is really close. Ciryl Gane could just look too quick. We'll see. We'll see. This one's a really 50-50. This is probably the closest fight on the entire. This is the closest fight on the entire card. But I do think Alex will get it done. At minus 115, it's pretty good value. The fight to go over 2.5 rounds, though, is a really good value at minus 160. Alex is patient. He could find a knockout super early, especially if he fights like he did against Ankalaev in that first fight. So we'll see. The main event, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Ilia Topuria joined the UFC 8-0. Since then, he's just rolled straight to a title, knocking out legend after legend, becomes double champ, really with relative ease. He's one of the UFC's biggest stars in the world right now. Knocked out Charles last fight. Knocked out Charles last fight, sadly, and then knocked out Max Volk. This guy's just, you guys know Ilia Topuria, hopefully. And if you don't, you're about to find out. His style, he's an incredibly smooth boxer, also has great hip strength and high-level grappling IQ. I think Ilia Topuria is one of the best pound-for-pound grapplers in the entire UFC, and nobody knows or cares because he doesn't use it, doesn't need to, doesn't want to. But I think he has it in him. Look at the singular grappling exchange he had with Charles Oliveira. He won the entire thing. Chin of vibranium, maybe he ate. It's just tough to say. He ate a nasty elbow straight on the chin from Charles Oliveira, and he was unfazed completely. So he could have a chin, but then again, he doesn't really get hit a lot. Really just devastating power. Max Holloway has never been knocked down in his UFC career, and Ilia Topuria went in there and knocked him out like in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that. Just devastating. His opponent, Justin Gaethje, the highlight, he's a true legend of the UFC, for sure Hall of Famer, always putting on incredible performances, win or loss. The Max Holloway BMF fight, every fight he's in, this guy comes to throw down. Definitely reaching the end of his career, but he's proven that he does have some left in the tank, especially with his win over Paddy Pimblett. That was a really impressive win from him, especially because he really wasn't supposed to win that. I think the UFC was trying to set up Paddy versus Ilia. I would have loved to see that, but not really how it worked out. His style, definition of a brawler, just comes to throw down, will swing with reckless abandonment. Despite never using it, he does have a wrestling background. I think he wrestled at like Colorado State. No, Colorado something like that. Provides him really good takedown defense when he doesn't want to get taken down. But he just never uses it, so we don't really know how good of a wrestler. I don't want to say never uses it, rarely uses it. Wants to win with power. He'll take one to give one, which scares me, but he'll take one to give one if it means, he can hopefully get a shot off and land a big one. But my prediction for the fight, not going to do anything crazy here, folks. I think Ilia Topuria is winning by round 1 knockout. There's a reason why so many people are picking this. It's just stylistically not great for Justin Gaethje. When you look at him, he's like I said, a give one to take one type of fighter, and you can't take one against Ilia Topuria. You just can't. I think Topuria by round 1 KO at plus 190. It's kind of just like written. I feel like I've just learned to trust whatever Ilia says he's going to do. That's what he's going to do. He's going to knock out Justin Gaethje in the first round. That's what he's been saying all week. I think that's what he's going to go out there and do at plus 190. Pretty good value. And Topuria KO, minus 225. Surprised that it's not a little bit lower odds, I guess. I feel like that should be in the minus 4s because his money line alone is minus 600. So Topuria KO at minus 225 makes plenty of sense. Thank you for sticking around. We got the best bets recap. I think high value wise, Dawkins KO, Lewis moneyline, Roofy KO over 1.5 rounds, and Topuria round 1 KO are all in the plus territory. That just make plenty of sense. Dawkins KO is obviously the highest value straight there. Don't throw a ton on that, but it's a good bet. It's a good bet. Parlay legs, I think Lopez Garcia not to go the distance. Lewis Hokett under 1.5 rounds. Topuria KO and O'Malley moneyline. That's a 4-legger right there. That's probably going to provide you pretty good value. And all of those things are like really, there's not a single thing on there that I'm even questioning in the slightest. I guess Lewis versus Hogan KO or Lewis versus Hogan under 1.5 could maybe be the only thing, but not a lot of bets here. That's because there's not a lot of fights. We only got 7 of them. Not super crazy about betting on anything in the Poetan fight. Obviously, I'm going to bet on Alex Pereira, but I don't want to put that in the parlay legs because I am pretty 50-50 on that as well. So those are the best bets recap. Not a whole lot to recap because there's not a lot of fights and not a lot of bets, but that is what I like parlay wise and high value straight wise. Total picks recap. Overall, I'm 117-52 this year. Took a break from the past couple weeks. I got a JOB. So we'll see if I'm able to continue to pump these out. I'm going to try. We'll see. But main events wise, I'm 8-5. Numbered events 40-17, which that ain't bad. 40-17 for the numbered events is not bad at all. And then fight night events, I'm 67-36. After this, we got Kyoji Horiguchi and Manel Kopp in the Apex. And then I think we go to Baku. And then we got the return of the Mac. That whole international fight week card is going to be crazy. And then the OKC card that follows that is going to be electric. The UFC knows what they're doing. This thing cannot flop tonight. If it's raining, whatever's going on, I really need this thing to go well. I think it'll be an electric moment for the entire sport. It'll be super fun. Try to make the graphics look better for you guys. Hopefully they look better. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll try and get some more videos out. Hopefully, we'll see. It's getting tough. It's getting tough being an adult, but I'll try and get more out. Shout out WVU baseball. Let's get a dub tonight. Yeah, and I will see you guys. I'll make a recap video because it'll be pretty easy because there's only a few fights. So I'll see you guys hopefully either Monday or, yeah, it'll be Monday because today's Sunday. See ya.